The Beyond the Fame podcast is fed by Lido Pizza. Lido Pizza never cuts corners. For menu and locations, visit LidoPizza.com. And of course, this podcast would not be possible without our longtime title sponsor, the Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Upcoming featured entertainment includes Kevin James adding a second show June 7th and Band of Horses June 14th. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. 75 years ago today, on June 2nd, 1950, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz took their vaudeville act on the road in Chicago, then New York City, in the hopes of impressing CBS enough to give them their own sitcom, which of course happened the following year with I Love Lucy. I spoke to their daughter, Lucie Arnaz, when she toured with Pippin at the National Theater in Washington, D.C. in 2014. I'm here with Lucie Arnaz, who's playing Bertha, the grandmother of Pippin at the National Theater here in D.C. Thanks so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
Take me back. When did you first encounter Pippin for the first time? Did you see the Fosse play?
I did. I saw the Fosse play in 1972. Stephen Schwartz, music, Bob Fosse, choreography. Unbelievable. I have such vivid memories of that show.
You saw it on Broadway?
I saw it on Broadway, and I went and I got the album immediately and memorized all the songs, and have seen various productions of it through the years, usually community theater productions. I'll run anywhere to see a Pippin production, though, because I love the story, love the music. And so then in 2013, when it was coming to Broadway, I was so thrilled and saw it. I was a Tony voter at the time, actually, and I voted for it. And I remember thinking, when I saw the way it was being presented now in this new framework, because it's not like the old show. I mean, the show is exactly the same, the Pippin show, the music of it and all that. And the Fosse-nesque
It's a word now.
Yeah, it is a word. But now Diane Paulus has put it in this circus framework with acrobatics and a real old school circus, not like the Cirque du Soleil.
Right.
You don't understand how they do any of it. This is people doing stuff. No special effects. Some magic, but no special effects. And I was just blown away. And when I saw this part that I ended up getting asked to do, I just thought, oh, they're never going to ask me to do that. I'm too tall. I'm just not. And when Barry Weissler, our producer, called and asked me, I just thought, this cannot be happening. I'm so excited. And I thought I should say no, because I'm not right for the part. I am too tall. And he said, just stop. What are you, crazy? Of course you're not too tall. You're perfect for it. And blah, blah. And the smartest thing I ever did was not try to talk him out of hiring me, because it's turned out to be one of the best parts I ever had.
Tell me a little more about when you said you bought the soundtrack. I love that idea. You went and bought it immediately when it came out, and you just played it over.
Oh, yeah.
You were sitting at home just jamming out to it every day.
I was a musical theater nerd when I was little. I mean, I knew all the top 40 songs, too, when I was a kid, but I really loved musical theater. And we had vinyl albums in those days, and I had a great record player, and I just played that album until it, collapsed.
Till the needle broke on
Yeah, I love this music.
Do you have a favorite song?
Actually, I do, and it's the one I get to sing in the show. It's always been one of my favorite songs because of what it says. It's time to start living, time to take a little from the world you're given, and because spring will turn to fall in just no time at all, and that is so true. And now I'm older, and I know how true it is.
How did it feel getting to when you finally get into auditioning for this role to be the one singing that song that you had sang as a kid listening to it?
Well, gratefully, I didn't actually have to do that. I didn't have to audition per se. I went down and checked that the key was right for me, because they would have switched it, I suppose. And it was, and they let me play on the trapeze a little bit because they knew that was the big part of this particular version of the show. I had to be able to go up high and not be scared. I'm not hooked on, and there are no nets or anything that. You just have to learn how to do this thing with this wonderful partner. And from the moment I got into the show, I knew I was just a lucky girl, because everybody around me is so talented. It's a play filled with people who have talent that just makes my jaw drop every night. I've been in the show 5 months now. I still stand in the wings and go, how did they do that? I mean, I'm just like a kid. I've said many times, and it's true, I've run away and joined the circus.
You pinch yourself saying, wow, I'm in Pippin.
I totally do. I absolutely do. The very top of the show every night. A lot of the kids, they're young kids and they're so wonderful because they don't realize how freaking lucky they are right now to be in a big, big hit like this.
Right.
And, they'll complain, oh, it's a matinee day and the show's too young, it's too early and we have there's 3 more shows, blah, blah, blah. God bless them because they work a lot harder than I do. And it is harder to do what they do and kick their, feet over their heads or spin somebody's body through the air what they're doing.
Right.
But I just sit there and that music, starts at the top of the show every night. And I get goosebumps and I just look up and go, thank you, God. Thank you, God, to let me do what I love to do in one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Well, that's what it's about. When you lose when you lose those goosebumps, then it's time to hang it up.
There's a place at the end. It's a place at the end of the show where the leading player says to Pippin, no costumes, no makeup, no music. And I'm listening to all this, and my player that I play is thinking, yeah, so what? So what? So what? Pippin's right. He doesn't want to jump in the fire. He's right to choose the other thing. And then she says, and no magic. And no matter what I do as my player, I can't go along with that.
Right.
I just look up at my trapeze hanging there. I look in the wings. I look at all these wonderful people on stage with me, and I think, what if I could have everything my way except there'd be none of this?
Right.
No magic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that either. So that's my strongest moment in the show.
Oh,
I realize I'm hooked. I'm an addict. I'm a theater addict.
See, when you go to the show, look for that moment of the magic. You'll see it in Lucie's face.
You will.
And now this stars the original Pippin in a different role, right? John Rubinstein.
Isn't that amazing?
What's it like? I mean, this is a direct connection to Fosse here. I mean, this is the thing that you saw as a kid. Now you're on stage with him. What's that like?
Well, just the sheer history is palpable as we go through the show every night. And when we were in rehearsals, because we all rehearsed as a troupe for 4 weeks, and we got to ask John and Steven Schwartz, who worked together in the original, what's this really about? What is that moment supposed to be? What did Bob mean when he choreographed it like that? And John is a smart actor. He teaches, he's a professor. He teaches acting. And his approach to this has always been this most straightforward approach, what it's really about. And he keeps it straight. He keeps it real for us every night. Like if it gets too funny, like the kids start to play the comedy of that scene, he's just like, wait, that's not what that's about.
Right.
That's not what that scene's supposed to be about. You guys know this is sort of funny here, but stop playing it like it's fun.
Sure.
It's great to have, he's almost like our own director within the show, even though Diane Paulus would have said the exact same thing and has, So his history and his ability to take us back to what this is really supposed to be about is priceless.
That's priceless, yeah.
It is.
Now, you mentioned Diane Paulus. What's it like working with her? I mean, I think she won a Tony for it, right?
She certainly did, yeah.
Tell our listeners how special that is that we're getting this Tony director here in D.C.
Yeah, this is the first national company. Let me just say that first. This is the Broadway show exactly like it is on Broadway. And in about another 3 weeks, it'll be the only version of the show anywhere because the Broadway company will be closing January 4th. And it is the exact sets, the exact costumes. We had Diane, we had, the same troupe putting this together, Chet Walker with the choreography. And Diane is meticulous. She's absolutely meticulous. I wish we'd had her every single day, but she was busy creating Finding Neverland in Boston. So unfortunately, we got her in bits and bobs along the way. And another gentleman who sort of tried to, get us to the point where she could come in and then change everything he said. But I loved working with her. I love her smarts. I love the way she approaches material. She approaches it the same way I always have, and yet I come from a musical comedy or a musical television sitcom background. But I grew up with folks who played it straight. We played it for real. We played it believable. Don't play it for the laughs. And when you have a really good script, which this is, and lyrics that make sense, you don't have to spin it in any direction. All you have to do is play it for real.
Let it speak for itself.
That's right. You look at all the great comics out there, the great clowns, God bless him, Robin Williams and people like that. They played it for real. They just find the character and don't spin it in. Don't try to sound like this or find it inside of you. Play the situation for real, and that's what Diane always encouraged us to do.
Is that a lesson you learned at a young age from your time on TV?
Absolutely.
With your mom and your dad?
With my mother, with my father, and all the people surrounding them, with the Vivian Vances and the Gail Gordons and all the really good actors and actresses. Yeah, but that came on. I mean, this was from a generation of people who generally didn't come from television because there was no television.
Sure.
They came from theater and they came from movies and scripts where there wasn't an audience there necessarily.
Right.
And they just had to play it real. And that's why those shows survive and are still funny today. They're not a lot of sitcoms today. First, the fact that we even call them sitcoms
It's a
as
total
opposed
different
to
format now.
situation comedy, well-constructed situations that turn out to be rather funny when you play them back out, is that I think a lot of the people, they read the lines as if, wait till you hear this one.
Yeah. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
I know the camera's
You
here.
can't
Yeah.
wink at comedy. You have to look. A great show to watch to learn how to do comedy is Friends.
Right.
One of those types of shows because they have outrageous characters many of the times, but they play it for real within that character.
Sure.
Just like the best of the old shows used to do.
So you think Friends and shows like that are kind of the modern era parents?
Frasier.
I Love Lucy.
Yeah, I think so. Mary Tyler Moore for the most part, you know.
Seinfeld gal?
Seinfeld, absolutely. All in the Family, you know, the classics,
Sure.
where the writing is so brilliant anyway that you don't have to do anything. I worked with Neil Simon, you know, the only way to do classic comedy is to play it for real. You destroy it otherwise.
Right. So you'd like to see television getting back to kind of the way it was that
Well,
when
it's
you
still there's
started in
still good shows, you know, and there's still good shows out there, and it doesn't always have to be comedies. I mean, some of the big dramatic shows that are out there have wonderful comedy in them,
Right.
and they're funny because of the way things are read, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd probably be a very happy director someday because it irks me so much to see it done wrong that I want to get in there and say, no, wait, stop. Listen to me. Try it like this, you know?
Is that something you've given serious thought to?
No,
TV directing?
I
Stage play directing?
Actually, I am directing something now, brand new musical comedy that's headed to Broadway based on Hazel. In 1960, 62, 63, there was a show on television starring Shirley Booth called Hazel, and she was a housekeeper, a nanny housekeeper. And it was based on the Ted Key cartoon. There was a comic strip, Hazel, the maid. And it's actually Hazel, a musical made in America. Musical made in America.
Made. It's all in the spelling.
Get it? Yeah. And brand new, wonderful music and lyrics by Ron Abel and Chuck Steffen and Lissa Levin wrote the book, and it's one of the smartest books I've ever read. So they asked me to direct the equity reading in New York. We did. It was very successful. I actually did that while I was on Broadway with Pippin. I did the Pippin show on Broadway.
You were juggling both?
I was juggling both at the same time because we have acrobats and jugglers in our show, and I learned how to do that. And now
nice tie-in.
So Hazel's going on to a workshop production headed for Broadway, and they've asked me to continue on with it. So here I go.
Oh, great.
Here I go.
Nice.
Yeah.
You don't act in it at all, do you?
No, I'm just directing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Could you see yourself transitioning into film directing, any other kind of directing?
I could. I would like to. I am actually shadowed Larry Shaw, one of the first and best directors on Desperate Housewives, for an entire month a couple of years ago. I went out and I said, I just want to watch the one camera technique. I'm familiar with 3 camera. I grew up with that, but I would like to watch the one camera. I've done it, but I've never actually watched it from the other side. And so he let me start from the first day of script readings all the way through the editing process. And I did everything he did. And that was fascinating. And I would like to transition into you can still do both, but you know, if Angelina Jolie can direct, and she's a wonderful director, you know.
Unbroken, just thought.
Yeah.
Then you can do it too.
I would like to try.
And
If I can do a trapeze, you know, directing shouldn't scare me.
You can do anything. Just bring it back full circle. I mean, although you've acted on TV and in film across Laurence Olivier and you know and on stage, you know, but what is it about theater to you that is that magic that you talked about earlier? That's different from, I mean, TV and movies have their own magic, absolutely.
Yeah.
But what is it about being on stage that really gets you night in and night out?
You know, I think I'm not sure I can answer that question. I actually think there's a gene or some sort of a chemical thing in certain people that enjoy going back out there every night and doing it again, trying it again. Even when you get it right, there's a thrill about the next performance to see if you can go where you got that night to make that happen again. And then you find out the trick is don't ever try to do that. Yeah. You always just have to be present and see where it goes. Because if you're trying to recreate, that's not good either. It's a fascinating science to me, live theater. And the push-pull with the audience, you know. They say, oh, the audience is terrible tonight. I hate when people say that. The audience is never terrible. Never. They are different. They're more quiet sometimes. Sometimes there's something in the news that day, or a collective something in the weather, or who knows what. But they come to the theater and they are open to what you give them. And if you play off of, oh, well, they didn't laugh hard, or they didn't applaud for me when I came on or whatever, show tanks, you know. And I just love seeing what it's going to be like every night. No one's going to save your butt. If you're wrong, you're just wrong. Right. No editor is going to come in and cut that part out, or, you know. And I like that part. So maybe I've always been in the circus. I like the high wire act.
I like it. Well, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for coming in and talking.
My pleasure.
Don't miss my other chat with Lucie, breaking down the best I Love Lucy episodes in our archives at BeyondTheFamePodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.